Hey guys, Tyler from Meeple Mountain here, bringing you another board game review and learn to play. Today, brought to you by Lucky Duck Games and their new title, Kingdom Rush: Rift in Time. Now, if you're like me and you love tower defense games, you've grown up playing tower defense titles like Bloons Tower Defense or especially Kingdom Rush. I remember spending way too much time back in high school playing Kingdom Rush on Armor Games, and it is just a great franchise. It's incredibly fun, and I was really excited to see what Lucky Duck and Ironhide brought to the table as an adaptation of those incredible titles. And so I was really excited to get my hands on it and can't wait to walk you through the components, how it plays, and how they took such an intricate video game style tower defense system and turned it into quite a masterful puzzle brain burner of a tabletop game. So let's jump in, let's learn to play a little bit of tower defense here, and I'll talk to you about my impressions of Kingdom Rush: Rift in Time. Kingdom Rush: A Rift in Time is a 1 to 4 player game where you will be working by yourself or with partners, taking on the roles of various heroes in the Kingdom Rush universe to defeat the hordes that are attacking your kingdom. Now, again, if you are a Kingdom Rush nerd like myself, you'll love the fact that this is set in the congruent storyline universe of Kingdom Rush, where portals have begun opening over the kingdom with enemies, both old and sometimes new, starting to spawn into the land and attack the kingdom again. You've defended your kingdom so many times and they just don't get the message. And they're back again for this could be round 5 technically, getting ready to attack your kingdom again. And so you have to rise back up and prepare to defend the land again against the hordes of goblins and orcs and every other imaginable type of enemy that you've encountered in the Kingdom Rush franchise. And again, some that are brand new are going to be attacking you and attempting to move down this roadway here on these trays. These are called Horde Trays, and they're going to be moving and attempting to get to the end of the road. And if they cross this finish line here, I guess you could say, they'll do damage equal to the number and type of unit that's not covered on the tray. We'll talk more about that in a second. And they'll remove hearts from your board. If you ever run out of hearts, you've lost the scenario or the mission and will have to try again. So you as heroes, you're going to be charged with attacking these trays, placing down various towers that you have, leveling up those towers, and placing them around the board based on your player color, so that you are able to cover up these trays and place your Tetris-like grid tiles here to cover up and deal damage to the enemies that are out on these Horde Trays. Doing so will, of course, lessen the impact at the end of the road when the tray crosses, but fully covering up a tray will allow you to remove it and receive the reward that's on the back. Usually, hopefully, in the form of crystals. Crystals will allow you to purchase additional towers that you can utilize to up your defense as the rounds continue to get progressively harder and more challenging. You can also choose to use your crystals to unlock hero special abilities that will make your hero more powerful and formidable in battle, as they themselves can actually go and cover components of the trays themselves. All of this adds to layers of strategy that you as the player or players will have to work together and strategize on how best to defend this road as these hordes will continue to come out. Now, this is the player setup for the very first mission of the core setting of Kingdom Rush: Rift in Time. Every setup, every map, and every horde stack here that is laid out by a scenario guide is different and unique to the mission that you have. But predominantly, you're going to be wanting to survive and level up until you get to these portal cards, these purple portal cards, and there'll be 2 in this particular scenario. You will win the game if you can survive until both of those cards come out and then defeat those cards. They are, of course, very formidable bosses that you'll have to be prepared for. But if you can defeat both of those portal cards, you will win this particular scenario and would be able to advance to the next. So let's talk a little bit about how turns will play out and what some of your options are as a hero in the world of Kingdom Rush. As you take on the role of a hero in Kingdom Rush, you'll be working to cover these trays of Horde enemies by either moving your particular hero onto them in some way to cover them up, or you will perhaps be placing towers out on the various areas that you can. Now, as you can see, there are some purple locations here, which is for the purple player playing Malik, and some green locations, which are here for Illyria. And as a hero, you'll be able to place any towers that you possess on colored building location spaces that are equivalent to your hero color. Now, there are, if you're again familiar with Tower Rush, the 4 core archetypes of towers in this game. So, those are your archers. Those are your physical attacker components. They have some ranged options. They have a little bit of flexibility on how they can attack. And they usually attack in smaller tile numbers that can be used to cover up spaces. But they allow you a lot of flexibility, and they attack in a physical way, which goes against armor. There's, of course, magic attacks and physical attacks. So you'll have to plan for those as well. Next, we have mages. Mages usually are a little more limited in how they can attack. They predominantly can only attack straightforward with maybe a little bit of flexibility as you level up, but they come with some pretty awesome attacks, like this leveled up lightning bolt attack, or even the core one is a L-shaped attack such as this, which gives you a lot of coverage for a level 1 tower. We have a Militia. Militias allow you to put these awesome little warrior meeples out, and you can use them to cover up any space that you want, which gives you a lot of flexibility on how you cover those spaces. They'll persist from turn to turn and travel even with your tray until it's defeated, which gives you some really nice longevous cover options. So militias can be very, very useful and fun. And the last we have, of course, is your Bombadier artillery howitzer. These will give you some really nice multi-tray coverage options. They start out not covering a lot of spaces, only giving you a single hex, but they allow you to put one on multiple trays or even on the same if you wanted to. But the option to cover multiple trays is incredibly valuable as you look to maximize your efficiency on your turns. So what we have here again is set up for the very first mission of or scenario of the core game of Kingdom Rush Rift in Time, which is going to have us start with these 3 towers for each player. It's laid out on your particular player aid, the towers that you start with based on the player count. We would start with 3 crystals, and we only have our basic attack. Now, since this is the first mission of the game, we don't have any player spells or special abilities, and we can't unlock our heroic special abilities as well, which is unfortunate because we have this awesome cat meeple here that we could unlock in some missions, so we'll work to get him later. In this mission, you're going to be taking on the role of these heroes working to cover these towers. And so on your turn as a hero, you'll do a few different things. You'll be able to move your hero and utilize your basic attack or special abilities if you had them unlocked. And then you'll also be able to place a tower and activate it. So if I was taking on the role of Illyria, I would be able to utilize her basic attack, which allows me to attack with either a 1 or a 2 arrow shot, and I'm allowed to spin it. You see the spin location here would allow me to rotate this piece in any way that I want. The arrows will dictate in which way I can attack and how far. If you have multiple arrows in a row, you can attack multiple spaces ahead of you. So on your turn, you're able to move a number of boots or squares equal to your speed. So I have a speed of 3. So I can move orthogonally or horizontally, vertically, whatever I want. And I could move, say, down here. And then I could choose to attack this tray. And I could fire a 1 or a 2 little Tetris grid however I want. So I could attack and do something like this, covering up this specific location. I could then choose to activate a tower as well if I wanted, placing it on any of the green build locations that I want to place it. So I might take this mage tower here and orient it this way so that I can take my tower, my tile here, and attack the hex here. So I could do something along the lines of this. That would conclude my turn, and it would then pass to the player taking on the role of Malik, who would go ahead and take his turn. He can only move a speed of 2, so he could potentially move here and actually come down here and work to cover this tray in some way, shape, or form. And then he could choose to place a tower as well, allowing him, let's say he took this archer, he could place it here as the purple player. He could take a level 2 tile, here a little 2 grid, and he could attack diagonally and fully cover this tray. Now that we see that between player characters and coverage on the map, we have all of the enemies on that Horde tray covered. That would tell us that at the end of the round, we'll be able to remove that tray, and we will look at the back to see what rewards we gain. But that tray will be gone. It won't cross the exit, and we won't take any damage from it. Now, any heroes that are on grids at the end of the turn will take a damage, so Malik would have to move his health tracker down one, but he has 4 health. He can take it. He'll be okay. He'll be able to withstand that, or 3 health, excuse me. So we would remove this tray, and we would continue to the next spawn round of the game. Now, we could continue to take actions, moving our heroes, placing towers that we wanted to try and get coverage, and I'm sure that we would do that. We would want to make sure we tried to get this tower very covered, or fully covered if we could. So we'd want to try to start removing these to get more crystals to level up our towers. Now, let's talk about leveling up towers. It's a little different than the way that you might think if you've played tower defense games before. Now, when we end our turn, if we pass, I, as Illyria, could choose to pass these towers to my partner. That would come into this incoming tower spot here. Let's say Malik did the same to me. These would come to me. That would end our turn. We would go to the next round of the game. Any towers that we have that are in our incoming towers phase, we're able to level up. We could take these towers and replace them to their various locations where they came from and gain a more powerful version of that tower. That would give us more options, more powerful options as we move into future rounds. But of course, it limits the damage that we can do on this particular round. So again, let's say I leveled up these towers. Any towers that you have placed on the board, they don't level up. They do come back, however, to your hand. So again, the mage would come back to Illyria, and the archer would then go back to Malik. So as we can see, the towers that you play don't have the option to level up, but the ones that you don't play can level up. And so you're going through this balancing act of how do I maximize my impact on the table on a given turn, but yet give myself the ability to get more powerful towers as the waves that are coming out will continue to get stronger and stronger as we go through the rounds of play. On your turn, at the end of the round, you can use any gems that you have or have collected to unlock player special abilities that will give you more powerful options with your hero, or you can use them to purchase additional towers, which of course will extend your hand, allowing you to save more towers, upgrade those towers, and increase your impact as you go round to round. Again, we would continue to play through these various horde cards. We can see here the next one that would come out has these little wogs on them that are fast. That means this tray would move 2 spaces on its turn instead of the normal 1 as they shuffle through the rounds. We could get all the way, if we survived, all the way down to a portal card such as this one, which has deadly heroes on it, or enemies on it, which means our heroes can't be placed on this tile to cover deadly enemies. We have to use our tile coverage to use them. Militias are also not effective against deadly enemies. We would continue playing until we got all the way down to the final portal card. And if we were able to cover this card, we would be able to be victorious in this attack. It's worth mentioning as well that portal cards can only be damaged by certain levels of towers. The first one can only take damage from level 2 towers, and this one here only can take damage from level 3 towers. So it's incredibly important as you go through the rounds of play that you are leveling up your towers enough to be able to damage your boss and portal tiles that come up as you progress through the game. This is just a quick little run through of some of the actions that you can take as various heroes and what you're trying to accomplish on the board. And again, as we clear these off, we're able to gain crystals from the back on the various horde cards that come up on these trays. Let's look a little more closely at the anatomy of a hero board. Each hero has several asymmetric functions, be that their max health, total speed, or special abilities that are on their right-hand side. Here we see that Malik has protection, which means he won't take damage from any trays or horde activity until the end of the round, which means he's incredibly tanky and able to move quickly onto horde trays and cover up a lot of spaces. We also see that his basic attack is incredible and that he puts out these massive 4-grid squares, and for every blank that this covers, he's able to put out additional pieces on adjacent hordes. And so he is able to just deal great deals of damage to the horde on his own. He also has abilities that he can unlock, such as Earthquake, which, while maybe it doesn't give him quite as much of a punch as his basic attack, it allows heroes in his space to also have the protection ability, which gives him just incredible coverage and the ability to tank for his whole team. He can also do things such as It's Hammer Time, which will allow any one hero to recover an ability and lets him take another action. So he can give a lot of sustain to his teammates. It's great to have Malik on your team. And again, as we covered, he has specific starting towers based on the player count. So we saw that at the beginning, he starts with an archer, a bombard, and a militia, which gives him good flexibility across the board. Now, anytime that your hero does take damage, of course, you have to track it here. If your hero is ever defeated, they're removed from the board and have to come set onto their hero tray until the next turn in which they regenerate and are able to be placed back out on the board. You want to make sure you're really careful about overutilizing your hero, as you'll want to make sure you have them available when you're up to fight a portal or a boss card. Having your hero die at an inopportune moment can be the difference between victory and defeat. Let's take a second to talk a little bit more about the exact anatomy of the 4 basic types of cards and talk a little bit more about how they work. Again, we see we have the Archer, Marksman, Sharpshooter, Mage, Adept, Wizard, Bombard, Artillery, Howitzer. These are your predominant ranged attack options. We see again, you can look at a card, it tells you the level on the bottom right, whether it's a magical or physical attack on the bottom left, and then the type of tile that is fired from this tower at the top, as well as if it attacks directly in front or diagonally, or maybe it even attacks both, where it attacks multiple ways and adds additional tiles. The last thing to take note of is if the tile has this small rotating spin symbol, it means that you can orient the tile however you want. Otherwise, the tile must come out in the exact direction that the tile itself dictates. So in the instance of the mage, he is firing an L-shaped spell, and it must go out exactly this way. You can't change the orientation of that in any way. You must make it work. Now, in the instance of the marksman, you can rotate the L-shaped arrow tile in any orientation that you want. Some tiles, like the sharpshooter here, also have a double arrow in the front, which means they can attack 2 squares ahead instead of just 1. Having that range and the ability to pepper damage exactly where you want it can be incredibly powerful as you get to more advanced tiles. Now, we talked a little bit about the Militia, Footman, Knights pieces here, but I wanted to speak a little bit more about them because they have some really awesome special abilities. Now, you'll notice they have this little blue symbol here that denotes that they have a really cool ability. Now, when you place a tile on a space on the board, normally only one can go there. There is one exception to that, and that is your Militia, Footmen, and Knights. They can actually be placed onto a space that already contains another tower, as long as you are the owner of that space. So for instance, if I was the green player and had placed an archer on a green space, I could also place a militia there as well. That is incredibly powerful for allowing you to stack damage on the same horde tray. Also, Knights and Militia and Footmen, when they go onto a board, you take a small wooden meeple and you'll place it onto a horde space covering one of those pieces on that tray. These units only have 1 health, but the cool thing about them is that they prevent the tray from advancing down the path on that turn. They would take a damage, they would unfortunately pass away, they would come back to the reserve and could be placed again. But on that turn, that particular tray would not advance further down the road. This can be incredibly helpful in allowing you to slow down specific trays that need additional damage. So the careful use of your footmen, your militia, your knights, this line of towers is incredibly valuable in choosing which towers to stall so that you can soak damage onto them with your other tiles that allow you to add additional tiles to that horde tray. So don't underestimate them because it seems like they don't cover a lot of spaces. They have some really great special abilities. It's also worth noting as you advance through the missions that you'll gain access to incredibly powerful level 4 tile variants. These will give you additional special abilities, the ability to pump out tons of tiles and damage, but all of these of course will be explained in the scenario book as you move forward, but they're going to give you a lot of powerful options in how you deal with the hordes that are attacking the kingdom. And that is, in a nutshell, how you play Kingdom Rush: A Rift in Time. Now, I'm gonna geek out here for a second, because I love stickers. The game comes with a full pack of stickers that you can use on this really awesome map that lays out all of the missions that you'll play through, just like the games, where you'll be completing various level of star difficulty based on how well you do and how challenging it is to complete the various mission. There's also the Iron Challenge and the Heroic Challenges that will even test your skills further. Additionally, what's really cool is that this map contains additional missions that have all the expansion content that you can purchase. There's 3 expansion sets for Kingdom Rush that you can get as well that all fit in this box, I think, really nicely. Of course, if you like boxes, you can keep the additionals as well. But these will be tracked here as well, so you have one map to kind of track all of your progress, which really is a lot of bang for your buck as far as tower defense, Tetris-style puzzles. There's a lot of content here, and again, if you are a Kingdom Rush nerd like myself, it's really cool to see how they integrated all of the enemies and storylines from the various games. You have one that's The Goddess Returns, which is the entire Spider Goddess campaign from the Origins set. For Origins, there's a Frontier scenario, there's an Ice scenario. There's lots of really fun content packed in here that kind of recycles the map and some of the feel from the various Kingdom Rush titles, but really stands alone and is quite unique in how it deals with adapting tower defense to a tabletop presence. Now, I've kind of walked you through how to play. I've walked you through a few of my thoughts already, but what did I really think about the game? So let's dive in there, and I'll share my thoughts with you because they're a little complicated, like me. So, I really love tower defense games, and when I was asked to review Kingdom Rush, I was super excited because, again, it's my favorite tower defense game. I've played far too many hours of the title, so good job, Ironhide. You've made a quality franchise for me. When I started playing the game, I initially was a little thrown off because, again, as I mentioned, this is tower defense, right? You have your towers and you are dealing with your hordes of units that are advancing. You have that feel that matches the Kingdom Rush title, but the way that it's executed is different, and it was a little jarring for me with my first experience with the game because it's not so much tower defense in the way that you're used to as much as it is a co-op puzzle game. This is 100% a co-op puzzle game. Even if you play solo, it is a puzzle game where you are playing Tetris and you are looking how to maximize your efficiency with the various tiles and the ways that you're able to allocate those tiles on each turn. You're trying to obviously use the least amount of towers that you can so that you can level them up while maximizing your hero's efficiency, your abilities, and just do board control. You're, of course, trying to get additional resources and crystals and gems so that you can level up your heroes, get more towers. But all in all, you're really playing a Tetris-style puzzle game with lots of bells and whistles. Now, that is not a bad thing. That is just a different thing than what initially pops into my head with tower defense. I will mention the other jarring element of the game is the picking up of your towers. As I mentioned, in every round, you're placing some of your towers, passing some of your others maybe, but at the end of the round, you're picking up all of the towers that you've placed, and you're starting afresh. Every round is kind of like a fresh start where you're then reactivating your heroes or placing towers again, either the leveled up version or the standard version, so that you can continue to damage the hordes that are out on the road. And this is different, of course, than Kingdom Rush titles in the video game world in that towers, you can sell them, but towers usually stay in one place and you're collecting gold to level those towers up over their various iterations. And so in my head, when I sat down to play this title, that's what I was expecting. Okay, I've placed a level 1 tower here and I'll use my gems to level that tower up to its various iterations. That's just not how this title functions. You are placing your towers, you're passing towers, and you're leveling up the towers that you effectively didn't play on this particular round, which again was a bit jarring to me as a tower defense fan. It's not the style or way in which normal tower defense games are played, how they function, and so that was a little different. So I had to kind of work my head around that and not let it pull me out of the fantasy, because honestly, Lucky Duck and Ironhide have created a really cool universe. Of course, the story is really fun and lighthearted and neat, and how that envelops through the campaign, the scenarios that you're playing through. But the game itself is really, really solid. It has really challenging layouts on these Horde Trays where you're trying to think about, okay, I can cover 4 with just my hero alone, but he's going to take damage. Is it worth it to let him take the damage, or do I need to keep him alive to use his abilities to save him for later, for a time that I really need it? Once you get into enemies that are special, that are either magic resistant or have armor and are physically resistant to damage, or that are deadly and can't be covered by Militia, so that means they can't be slowed, they can't be covered by your hero, so they can't take these massive hits of damage. And then how do I maximize my efficiency with what I have? It's a really fun game, and if you have a group of gamers that really like to dialogue on a co-op style game and love to get into the brain burn of like, how do we maximize this? It's really fun. Now, I always mention this in co-op games. You do, of course, have the danger of someone quarterbacking, but that's really more of a group issue than it is a game issue. I think that Kingdom Rush Rift in Time has a lot of really fun, really awesome components that are well done. The art on the cards, on the trays, on everything is just so evocative of that Kingdom Rush feel, which is this super light, fun approach to something that is, of course, very dark and serious, protecting your kingdom from invading hordes. You have just incredible minis, such as one of these boss minis here that takes up the entire section on his own, and it just has a very fun and engaging table presence. The way that you have to utilize all of your various towers to overcome the challenges and the puzzle that's presented to you from scenario to scenario is incredibly fun and engaging, and things get crazy really fast in some of the later missions, and that's really fun because you have this sense of accomplishment when you overcome and achieve your objective on one of these missions. It's not just a simple casual game that you'll play through. Some of these are, especially with the iron challenges, are really, really hard and will test your mental fortitude as you try to power through some of these challenges. You'll have to adjust your heroes. I've shown 2 here, but there are actually 5 in the core box alone that you can play as, and so you have some fun selectivity on how you want to play. I'm a really big fan of Illyria just because you again have this really awesome cat miniature that you can send out to cover trays as well, and you have that ranged archer Legolas kind of feel. But there's lots of different heroes that all play differently and can spec to a playstyle that you really enjoy and appreciate. And of course, as with all Kingdom Rush games, the game just ramps up as you go, giving you access to higher level towers that'll affect your strategy, new hero abilities that will affect your strategy as you go, and of course, our favorite, the spells. You can use your reinforced spell to drop Militia where you want them, or your fireball spell to strategically cover up or finish off a tray that might sneak past your defenses. And there's a lot of fun and strategy packed into this box. Kingdom Rush has a really approachable price point. It's not going to break the bank. It looks cool. It looks great on the shelf, and it has a great table presence. It doesn't take up a massive amount of space, but again, it's really going to challenge you as you think through and struggle through how to achieve victory in this game. So again, I will note, it did have a few jarring interactions because of my personal expectations for tower defense, but overall, I think Lucky Duck knocked it out of the park with this partnership with Ironhide. It's a great game. I think you're really going to enjoy it if you like Tetris-style puzzle games, if you like co-op games that are going to test your teamwork and your mental grit as you think through how best to optimize. It's really, really fun. It's also worth noting that you don't need to be a Kingdom Rush fanatic like I am to enjoy this game. You don't need to know anything about Kingdom Rush to sit down and appreciate the value of this game of, okay, we've got these hordes of trays that are attacking, how do I cover them up? And that's really all the game is when you get down to the brass tacks, so the nuts and bolts on it. And it's really well done. It's challenging. There's lots of different types of enemies, all with special, unique abilities, and it's going to make you think. It's definitely an enjoyable title. So if you're in the market for something that's going to be a little bit different from probably what you have in your collection already, if you're looking for something that's going to test the way that you think and puzzle through some unique co-op challenges in a really fun, artistically well laid out setting, then I would suggest that you check out Kingdom Rush. I think it's a game that you'll really, really enjoy. So for my personal rating for Kingdom Rush for Rift in Time, the core set, I would give this a 6.5 out of 10. It's really, really well done. It's enjoyable, it's engaging, and I think it's something that you'll want to add to your collection. So our thanks again to Lucky Duck for shooting us a review copy of Kingdom Rush Rift in Time. I hope you enjoyed this video, and thanks again for coming to Meeple Mountain for your video game review needs. As always, happy gaming. Thanks for watching this video. I really hope you enjoyed it. Check out some of our other Meeple Mountain content. I promise you won't be disappointed. This is Tyler Williams, signing off.